SNS で相手を検索、予習は常に抜かりなく、友達チョイスは躊躇なく、キャラかぶりは絶対 NG。 言えるアクセススケールライス、鎖骨のよく出た白い服、攻める夜なら3つの首出せ、首に手首に足の首、タイツのダニール30です、あいつのダニール60です、デニール07生しよう作り笑顔の常習犯、上目遣いは中2でマスター、脇締め乾杯、グラスはいつも内回り、左8度は魔法のアングル、可愛さいつもの2割増し、メニュー差し出す軟骨青筋ちら見せて、相手だけ得1メーターカラーのマッハでズームイン、リアクション3倍でできる女のさしすせそ、さすが知らなかった、すごいセンスいいですね。そうなんだ、この子はすごく真面目なの、レーテル貼ってライバル足止め、正直な子に見られるよ、事前にたくさん食べておく、即席パパッと作った人工天然キャラクター、あの手この手で重ねていつだって戦略的芸術的、それが無敵のテクニック、あのテクこのテク重ねていく、したたか鮮やか女の豊かなテクニック、くじを回れば酔い回る、いろんなハードル下がり出す、エンジン全開遠慮なく、ここから本番関ヶ原、目当ての彼にお酒渡す、ちゃっかり隣の席ゲット、イメージチェンジで髪をかき上げ、うなじで不意打ち脳殺ショット、促したいならどんな味、果敢に行くなら美味しいよ、関節キスはさりげなくストラテジー、お色直しは作戦タイム、淡いチークでほろ酔いメイク、茶色のアイシャドウで描く谷間、まるで浮き出るトリックアート、あざといタッチは株が暴落できる女は足タッチ、掘りごたつの下隠れてバレずに足タッチ、あえてつけすぎハンドクリームからのごめんもらって、戦略ぶりっ子でモテる女のあいうえをあげない、いらない、動けない、選べない、押せない、撮った写真シェアしよう、連絡先聞き出すこと風のごとし、後でグループ作るから知りたくない人は煙に巻く、割り勘でいい音最後は助け渡しただけ、あの手この手で重ねてつだって革命的驚異的、それが無敵のテクニック、あのテクこのテク重ねてく、絶妙巧妙女の豊かなテクニック、重ねてく、重ねてく、強くなきゃ戦えない、技がなきゃ戦えない、泣きたい夜もあるけど掴みたい幸せがあるから、少しの勇気で世界は変わるから、あの手この手で重ねていつだって戦略的芸術的、それが無敵のテクニック、あのテクこのテク重ねていく、したたか鮮やか女の豊かなテクニック、あの手この手で重ねていつだって革命的驚異的、それが無敵のテクニック、あのテクこのテク重ねていく、絶妙巧妙女の
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the long-awaited seed review stream. I know this was a pretty long time coming. Initially, we had this planned for Monday, right after the last lobby was finished, but some complications for the Turkish roster has pushed it. But of course, we are here. We are finally here on a Tuesday morning, on a Tuesday night for me, to bring you guys our seed review. You love to see it. My name is Gami Crayola. I am your lovely host, and joining me in the VC is, of course, Philoxen once again, and as well as Aquatic, a new face to the commentary booth, another Project Hexagon member, and you might know them as the video editor for the round of 32 tiebreaker that you saw yesterday. But I'm gonna let them do the talking. Philoxen, take it away.
Hey, okay, welcome everyone. First of all, we have the last place, of course, we have to start from it. It's gonna be Luxembourg, the country that finally, first time in 4 years, managed to finally get a roster, but unfortunately, as we could see, a lot of last placements on maps, because, well, overall we had 48 countries and they got that seeding on most of the maps, so unlucky for them, but I'd say congratulate them at least for being able to make the roster. But yeah, Aquatic, what do you think of that?
I mean, yeah, you've certainly said it. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of Seed 48s, but I mean, they do have the one standout score when Nomad 2, Silent Kukuri with the 500k, a pretty decent score considering how control heavy that Nomad 2 is. But nonetheless, a very good try from these players, and yeah, we'll get on to the next seed. Gami.
Yeah, I know. Funnily enough, I think Lunexia was doing some hard glazing on Luxembourg, but in particular, Moles was the player that they were looking out for. But unfortunately, it seems as though, they weren't available for the scores, which is why, unfortunately, yeah, it's really one of those things where GG, go next. Next up, we have Team Thailand into the stream. Thailand has always been one of those rosters that's really been struggling coming into the 6-digit World Cup, and I guess this year really is no different. They did have some stand-up players, in Puk Pao and I believe I Love Whitecat, but at the end of the day, really just isn't enough. Philoxen, let's take a look at their scores real quick.
Yeah, man, we can definitely point out Nakamayuri, really prominent Nomad 1 and DT1 scores. I believe there's an FC on DT1, just low accuracy, and 600k on Nomad 1. So he definitely was that powerhouse for Team Thailand, but it was not enough. The teammates that he had, as we can see, even the ranks of them are not so high. So it was kind of expected, and unfortunately, Thailand will not be getting to play 6WC this year. So for Aquatic, you can.
But yeah, I mean, Nomad 1
really
for
isn't much to say, right?
Yeah. Nothing much to add to this. Very good try from these guys. But yeah, we can probably move on to the next seed.
I'd like to shout out Neko Mayuri for the very valiant effort on the team, but at the end of the day, in a team size 8 tournament, you really need that support from the entire team for you to push it through the extra mile. GG Thailand, we hope that, your 6-digit scene will be rejuvenated in a few years, kind of similar to how the 4WC roster was. But let's move on to the next country. It's going to be seed 46, and it is going to be Team Romania. Now, Team Romania, one of my personal favorites. I mean, last year, I believe they had a 5-man roster, if I'm not mistaken. This year, they managed to fill out their roster, but unfortunately, was not enough. You look at their players, and it looks as though Sebi, Tony, and Lost Power just were not able to put any scores on the sheet whatsoever, and that really narrows down your options, right? As a roster, 5-man roster definitely makes it a lot tougher. Despite the fact that it is an 8-man roster, it looks like perhaps some of the other players were not up to the task. More in particular, the 500k player. It is rough coming into these 6WC qualifiers pools. This is a very, very rough pool. So at the end of the day, what can you really do?
I mean, hey, at least you got your 500k player to play Hidden 1, Hidden 2, so...
That's true, that's true.
So he had fun, at least getting that 1800k score. Anyway, Aquatic.
But I mean, you guys have mentioned pretty much everything. Nothing much else I can add. We could probably move on to seat 45.
Yep, let's move on to our next country, and it is going to be Team Hungary. Seat 45, Team Hungary. Once again, I mean, in the prediction stream, we were talking about some players like Shinoa Hiragi that we thought would be able to, you know, put up a good carry score. But at the end of the day, it sort of falls into that Thailand or the trend that we've seen in most of the teams that we've seen in the lower seeds, or most of the teams that we've seen before. Just one standout player just isn't enough to, you know, get them close to qualification. Just a reminder, top 32 teams qualify, not top 40 seats like last year. So we still have quite a ways to go before we start to hit into the qualifier zone. So I think we can just move right along to our next seed. Philoxen, would you like to take this seat 44 team?
Seat 44. Okay, let's see who the team is, and it's gonna be Bulgaria. The team that has already played 6WC in the year 2023 is not gonna be making it this year to 6WC 2025, unfortunately. They stably got like seat 44 placements on most of the maps, honestly, and they had one like really good score on Hard Rock 2, which was carried by Tashko, and I believe Tashko is it was the the strongest player of Team Bulgaria, but unfortunately, even a Hard Rock 2 FC couldn't secure them a place in top 32.
Yeah, and I think Aquatic, you can take this next one, seat the 43.
Seat 43. Let's see who it is. South Africa. Ooh, we do see another one of the teams that don't quite have that full 8-man roster. Unfortunately, it seems one of them could not put any scores on the sheet as well. So this is going to be a 4-man. 400k, very unfortunate. Pretty good performances, pretty consistent performances all around. An improvement from last year, just by 1 seed, but improvement nonetheless. A pretty good 31 seed on Nomad 2 once again. Ooh, a lot of good performances on these. Get me anything to add?
Yeah, no, nothing from me. I think we can move right along to seat 42, and this is going to be Team Austria now. This is a pretty unfortunate one for me. I think Team Austria over the years has really been sort of declining in the World Cup series, and yeah, it really looks like they missed the mark this year. Once again, another one of those rosters who just weren't able to, who just had players that weren't able to contribute to their qualifying performance whatsoever. 3 players, and with that, you basically have a 5-man roster. You run into a lot of the, you know, roster filling issues that has absolutely plagued a lot of the previous seats that we've seen. So yeah, let's move on to seat 41. Philoxen, take it away.
Yep, alright, the next seat is gonna be Team Sweden. As we can see, only 5 players this year played for Team Sweden. Last time they got seat 54, this time is gonna be different, but still not enough. Seat 41 is where they are gonna be stopped. I would say all the scores are pretty much like well-rounded. No, like there are no scores that are like too bad, no scores that are like too good. So yeah, unfortunately, just the competition was too much for those 5 players. So nice try, guys. And I think with that, we are gonna be moving on, and we'll see our seat 40.
What the fuck? Wait, what? I'm sorry, what? Wait,
no, hold on.
Wait, Chad, there's no way this is real.
Wait, this is not real.
Wait, hold on. Guys.
What?
Guys.
What? Guys, alright.
This April Fool's joke was a bit too late.
Has DNQ. You love to see it, Chad. Like and subscribe. Wait, you know what the funniest?
Oh, it should be Turkey. Oh no.
Leaking seats. All right.
Leaking seeds. Bro, what is happening?
technical difficulties in the chat, but honestly, the funniest part about this is I can totally imagine Vietnam DN queuing just based off their mental. This is like peak. This is like peak rage bait. I can't. Congratulations to Team Vietnam for winning minor league, guys. Let's go.
Oh, wait, no, I can't wait for the speech bubbles.
I can't wait for the speech bubble. I can't wait for the speech bubbles. You love to see it.
But yeah, anyway, the actual seed 40 is Turkey, so I'm sorry to break it to you like that while seeing Vietnam against your screen. But yeah, Team Turkey, well, good thing they recovered from the earthquake. But so sorry, guys, seed 40 is gonna be your destination. So yeah, huge shout outs for you to try it, but we hope to see you another year, but this year is not gonna be enough to qualify, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. I believe Team Turkey was also a 5-man roster, Philoxen, is that right?
Yeah. They didn't have full 8-man roster, so yeah, that huge shout outs to them.
Honestly, I'd like to take some time to personally like the 5-man rosters that have managed to outseat some 8-man rosters is just insane to me. Like playing 5-man, 4-man in a World Cup is definitely no easy feat, especially with all of the huge range of skill sets, right, that our qualifiers pool tests. It is very, very difficult and very annoying to play a skill set that you personally might not be the strongest at. So huge ups to the 5-man rosters that still, you know, bit the bullet and continue to play and continue to play in the qualifiers, because I know that a lot of countries would see that a lot of teams would see the very difficult qualifiers pool and just go, you know what, guys, let's not do this. But yeah, hopefully we should get the stream fixed up very, very soon. Is it possible for us to move on to C35 while hopefully we do some patchwork in the background for our own?
Oh wait, the next few teams. Oh no. All right.
Oh.
Wait, so the next few teams are also like wrong, or? Oh,
it is. That is pretty bad.
Okay,
That's
guys,
pretty bad.
make your guesses. Who is seed 39 while we are still waiting? USA?
Yeah.
Okay. That will be banger, I'm not gonna lie. Another speech bubble after another.
Honestly, guys, I find this really funny because in 6WC 2024 we had the exact same. Bro, we had delays in seat review as well. Like 2 rounds of quals. No, wait, sorry, 2 attempts quals is brutal, bro. 2 attempts quals is brutal on the freaking cheaters. You love to see it, bro.
Yeah, like it's just so easy to just not take care of something. Just forget like one score and then boom, you have Vietnam at seed 40.
In case you guys are wondering how we managed to f up this PowerPoint as stream, as Mishmush likes to is saying in chat. I hope you guys realize that there is sheeting and there is a whole ass like website that goes into this. So we hope that you guys can give our cheaters and our teammates some consideration when it goes into this. I don't even want to talk about this.
Guys, my condolences. All the Israel believers.
The rage bait continues, right? The rage bait just continues. Like, the into Israel C39. Like, what do you even say? What do you even say, bro? What do you even say?
I would say press F in chat for all the Frunan believers. I remember in the predictions we put them.
All I'm saying, Mr. Throw was right. All I'm saying, bro.
We put them in round of 32, but it was slightly not enough. 7 seeds away. Yeah. Ulsuki did really well on those tapping maps, like DT2, also Noma 2, and DT1 as well. So yeah, good efforts from them, also from Danan as well, and of course, Mr. the commentator himself. But yeah, I think this is gonna be it.
Well, isn't that nice to see? Frunan, I'll be reaching your DMs for some more commentary allocations. Well, without Israel playing in this year's 6WC, Frunan has now more time to devote to 6WC commentary. You love to see it. But Aquatic, would you like to take our seat 38? Let's move on right forward. Let's no more the dilly dallies.
But yeah, as we add one more person to the CDC basement, let's see.
Oh
Denmark,
my no!
Our C38 this year. Unfortunately, underseeding compared to last year, C35 to C38. Once again, missing out on qualifying just by that tiny bit. I do see that very standout score on the DT3 though. The FC from Rurup coming in clutch. Seed 18. Wow.
Huge.
I mean, hey, their star players certainly Rurup here, and they're doing a lot of work for this team, but unfortunately just could not get that supporting scores from their teammates. Anything else you want to add, Gammy?
I think Philoxen actually has something to say about this team.
Ooh.
Oh,
Okay.
This team, right? So Rurup, as we already mentioned, got top 47 by individual stats. So definitely a huge carry and would be really useful for many other teams. But as the really popular tendency from those low seed teams is that they have one really good player and then there is no one to support them with. And speaking forward, I think once we get to seed 37, which we, I think, already can switch to, we will see a very similar situation, if not even worse.
But yeah,
So-
unfortunately, honestly, Denmark is one of those rosters where I really expected to qualify. Like, you have players such as D Crescendo and I believe Coach Han returning for the World Cup this year. But yeah, at the end of the day, it looks like they really missed the mark, especially given how two of their players were not available for quals. Perhaps if they were in, they would have been able to, push it that extra mile. But unfortunately, we'll have to say goodbye to Denmark this year. Very unfortunate. I really love Rurup as a player, but yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on to seed 37. Gonna be our next team on the chopping block, and it is going to be Belgium. Belgium, a pretty interesting country. I think in the prediction stream we mentioned how there are some carry players from their rosters. You're looking at Molias, you're looking at Sandwich, and you were looking at Epic Mode. But again, Philoxen, it's one of those countries that doesn't really have the skill set diversity that they need in order to tackle the wide range of skill sets that the qualifier pool presents to them. You're looking at DNPR not being able to show up, I believe, for qualifiers, no scores on the sheet, and meanwhile players like Turbo and Zete Michi just weren't able to fill in Belgium's weaknesses, especially when you're looking at the hard rocks in the 40 seats, or the HD2 or the Nomod 2 in the 30, 34, 38 seat, and so on and so forth. Overall, a lot of weaknesses that Belgium was just hit very hard with, and even though they had solid scores on DT2 and Nomod 3, at the end of the day, that's just not enough to push you across the qualification mark. But with that, we're gonna come ever so closer towards our qualification. Reminder, top 32 teams qualify, so it is just 4 more teams to get through. Let's move on to seed 37. Philoxen, take it away.
Yeah, so your seed 36, I believe, is gonna be Pakistan, the team that made a lot of upsets last year. This time will not be making it. Just 3 seeds away, man. Torti tried his best with Doggerism, but it wasn't enough. Doggerism, the carry of Team Pakistan this year around. I've seen a couple of maps, I believe, or choke at least, but still, those Nomod 2 DT1 scores from him and the team scores are also pretty much stable. But once again, as much as Torti, Doggerism, and the others tried to qualify, it just slightly wasn't enough. And the things that are gonna be even sad for only 2 more countries. Wait, no, I can count for only 3 more countries that we will see next, because this is just tragic if you don't qualify and you're like 1-2 seeds away. But without further ado, I think
no. Before we move on, Philoxen,
okay.
I think it's really heartbreaking to see Pakistan go this early. It's like you have a lot of respected players in the scene. Doggerism, Demon for Days, and Torti are important to mention. It's just really unfortunate to see that once again it comes to the struggle to fill in players for the slots. You're looking at Yusuf, 200k. Clearly not able to play the maps in the qualifiers, and that really hurts the team's overall versatility in the qualifiers pool. But yeah, Aquatic, would you like to take our seat 35?
Yeah, let's see it.
Oh,
One more seed closer to qualification.
Let's go.
And here it is. Oh my god.
Let's go.
But yeah, I mean, hey, after Peru's story from last year, I think the infamy they have built up has been everybody knows about it. Seed 7 to seed 35 this year. I mean, again, some pretty relatively stable performances throughout the board. Nothing really too special. Just about 3 seeds away from qualifying, unfortunately. Anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm just happy that we won't have another Peru incident this 6WC. I was very worried going into it, but let's move on to our last 2 teams that will unfortunately be barely missing the mark. Let's jump into seed 34, pardon me. And it's going to be Team Malaysia. Alright, I'm taking this one. Brothers, Team Malaysia. I think LSC, LSC and James Law were telling me in VC, 2 of the Malaysian coaches, that it was very worrying going into the Malaysia quals, and for what it's worth, I saw those quals results as they came out, and I was like, you know what, I think they have a pretty good shot. Unfortunately, you know, it looks like with the efforts of Moist Onigiri and I believe, was it Aurelia, if I'm not mistaken, were just not able to carry Team Malaysia off. This is the first year of 6WC, I believe, that Team Malaysia has not been able to qualify. In part due, of course, to the narrower seeding or the more stringent seeding requirements this year. But yeah, it is really unfortunate seeing my brothers go down like this. But 07s to them. Let's move on to seed 33 and the last seed that will not be qualifying this year.
dramatical pause. And dramatical pause.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. If you ask me, and if you ask every like other commentator during the prediction stream, well, they would answer that, well, this team is definitely worth of being in top 32, and I believe that's where we put them. But because like, just look at the players. You have Conti, you have Allegro, you have Alu. Like, those 3 are super talented and experienced tourney players. They got 5 newbies, but still, it should have been enough. But now we are facing that situation where they are seed 33. I don't think that has ever happened to Team Finland before, and this is gonna be the first time for them. But I believe, yeah, we have to press F in chat for them.
Yeah, Aquatic, would you like to take a quick look at the scores that we have?
Yeah, let's take a look. I do see some scores that are popping up to me, mainly the Nomad 2, Hidden 2, and Freemod 1. I guess this team was on the stronger side in terms of the gimmicky picks, just looking at Freemod 1 and HD 2. But overall, just missing out that tiny edge to make it into the top 32. Very unfortunate performances for these players.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate given how, you know, Contito, Allegro, and Alu16 were very prominent members of Team Finland last year. It's just that, you know, once again, the lack of a group stage just leaves a lot of these countries just barely missing the mark. Before we move on to the qualifying seats, I would just like to shout out, I think everybody in, say, the bottom, no, not really the bottom, but I think seats 36 to 33 all have a very good chance in minor league. I think Team Finland in particular, as well as Team Malaysia, have a insane boon or an insane buff to their scores going into minor league, and I think they'll definitely be able to make some waves there. I would not be surprised if if they make it all the way to, you know, a later round like semifinals or finals in minor league. I think they're very strong teams, and I really look forward to be seeing what they have for us in a hopefully lower power level in minor league. But you guys will just have to wait and see. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, with that, all teams moving forward will be qualified to play in the bracket stage of the 6-digit World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, let's kickstart our qualifying rosters beginning with, it's gonna be seed 32.
Okay.
It's gonna be Latvia. So in our seed review stream, I think our prediction stream, I think Latvia was very adamant that they would qualify, and I'm very happy to see Latvia just barely manage to scrape by with qualifications. I think this roster has strength mainly comes, I think, in the team unity. What they lack in raw firepower, I definitely think they have in team spirit. I know Snappy in particular is a very motivated captain, and I think that is really what pushed his team to make the difference. You're looking at players like, you know, Black Diamond and Galvin's being able to put out some impressive scores across some of the maps. And I'm definitely very happy to see Team Latvia be able to push past that qualification mark. But Philoxen, I mean, anything to add from you?
No, my apologies, Snappy. I wasn't familiar with Black Diamonds and Shinzu Kilo's game, cause okay, those two really popped off. The top 17 score on DT1 is something super impressive. 3 FCs, or maybe like 2 FCs and 1 choke is definitely more than impressive for a country like Latvia. Definitely an improvement from last year, and you love to see that. But yeah, I believe we can now move on. Right?
Yep, and the next seed that we have on the chopping block is gonna be Team Italy. Team Italy, once again, another country that unfortunately lacked a player in qualifications, but nonetheless managed to be able to emerge seed 31 and pass that qualification mark. I mean, nothing much more to add about these players apart from Siri being a very standout player on this roster. What about you, Philoxen?
Yeah, definitely Siri would be the player that I would want to point out. This guy is top 26 by individual stats, so we're finally getting to some big individual stats numbers, and this is going to be the first of them. The stronger skill sets of that team are gonna be mostly just aim and hard rock, I would say, along with DT1 and DT2 type maps. So definitely not something control heavy. Some like maps like Nomad 3, Nomad 4 would be kind of a problem for them, also reading, but everything else should be okay. Aquatic, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you did mention that they would struggle a little bit on the control picks, but I do see a pretty good score on Nomad 3, 28 seed, Siri carrying with the almost 500k. That is pretty damn good. However, I mean, of course, we'll have to see with the map pool changes how they would do. Perhaps they would be relying on Siri being a solo carry on those control maps, and that is not something you really would like to see in a tournament as big as a team size 8 a 4v4, of course. But enough said. I think we should move on to the next seed 30. Let's see who it is.
Seed 30 this time is gonna be Team Switzerland Mirages. Hopefully satisfied with the performance that his country has put out today. I hope he's smiling back at home. But just to do a quick introduction of this team, I think this team definitely has some hard hitters. You're looking at Yuno Gasai and Vapsme, as well as Seven Sworda, being members of the old Swedish roster, built back in 6WC 2024 and in 6EUC 2024, if I'm not mistaken. As well as Natsuko Sama being the new captain of Team Switzerland this year. Definitely very happy to see Team Switzerland come back. In particular, I'm especially excited to see Team Vapsme in this roster. Vapsme is a very underrated player, and as you can see from their qualifier scores, it seems as though they were really the thing that held the team together alongside the performances from Seven Sworda. Unfortunately, Robo Freak did not look like he was able to contribute much to the roster, but hopefully in the round of 32, I mean, things can be different. Philoxen, what about you?
Yeah, man, I would say kind of a D seed without Robo Freak. This guy definitely has something to show. But yeah, this team, the structure of the team is like, it has one carry and one really strong support. The carry being Vapsme, as we mentioned, top 45 by individual stats, supported by Seven Sworda, top 67 by individual. The team's skill sets are mostly just balanced. No like really weak sides, maybe except for I think like raw tapping, which is Noma 2, but they have really strong emphasis on those DT pool type maps, like DT1 and DT2, top 20 and top 21. So this is, I think, is gonna be the way for them to go against any other team. But yeah, Aquatic, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, we do see a little bit of struggling on Nomad 2, as you've mentioned, but just looking at their scores on the DTs, they can certainly play those mechanics, and with Round of 32 being a more mechanics and speedy map in the Nomad 2 with Ascension to Heaven 200 BPM, less control on those Nomad 2 could probably help them out a lot in that position, but being the lower seed, they are still under quite a lot of pressure nonetheless.
Yeah,
But
but I think
yeah.
with that, we can move on to our next country. Moving forward, it's going to be C29, Colombia. Colombia is an interesting roster. I think this year they definitely lost a lot of their hard hitters. You're looking at SureX, you're looking at Regner. But I believe in our prediction stream, we actually predicted for Colombia to not qualify. So I'm very, very happy to be proven wrong by them. Just taking a quick look at their roster, it looks like real safe. It looks like this is actually one of the more balanced rosters that we've seen. It looks like every player on this roster has a purpose. You know, even Thera, you know, despite playing the least amount of maps, in addition to Erunamo, do have their standout performances in HD2 and Nomad 1 respectively. So for what it's worth, I definitely think that this Colombian roster has proven us wrong, and I'm honestly pretty interested in seeing how Colombia does. Probably maybe not in the upper bracket, but perhaps in the second round of 16. Or the second round of 16 in the lower bracket. I'm definitely interested to see how Colombia fares in a later round. But Philoxon, what about you?
Yeah, no, me too, certainly. The only note I have about the team saying no carries, which means that, well, all of the players are really well-rounded and they can support each other, especially when it comes to that low SR pool. Like, they all have a purpose, as Gamili mentioned, and I think this is gonna be a really tough opponent for even some higher-seeded teams, because once again, this team is very much united and they all know what they are doing. But yeah, Aquatic.
Yeah, I mean, Colombia was a pretty good opponent to us. They were in our group last year when we were doing our group stage in 6WC4, and they were a very good opponent to us. And I'm very glad to see they actually made it again this year. So yeah, congratulations. And we will see the next seed.
Yep, that's right. And this one is an interesting one because 6EC second place. What a fall from grace, as the United Kingdom are on the lower side of the seeding in the World Cup. C28. Definitely a shocker for, I think, a lot of people at home. This roster features quite a few hard hitters. You see quite a few returning players from the 6EC roster. You see, Isaac, JSY, Ghost Toast, as well as Bigfoot as the returning captain for the UK. At the very bottom as well, you see X-Fob Doodle, a 6-digit legend, been in the scene for almost 3 years at this point. Fob Doodle, definitely one of the stronger players when it comes to this meta of 6-digit, and it definitely reflects in their scores. Of course, as you can see, Fob Doodle being the end-all be-all carry, playing a whole host of maps alongside Bigfoot and Ivy, in fact. At the end of the day, congratulations to the UK for qualification, but I definitely think this is a huge step down in terms of power level, and honestly, it's unfortunate to see them lose a lot of their hard-hitting carries. Last year, we saw the likes of Dragonfire, the likes of not Syrio, oh my goodness, O/2, and I'm sure Highway Vortex. There are a bunch of players that I'm probably forgetting.
Don't forget Perry.
Yeah, that's right. The UK roster from last year was definitely a pretty formidable opponent. But at the end of the day, really, it just is that CSR that really hit the UK very hard. Philoxon, what about you, man?
Yeah, no, the UK is one of those occurrences where they managed to save some players from 6EC, but they just didn't improve in time. Of course, they got Fabdoodle, who hard carried the lobby, top 34 by individual stats, supported by Bigfoot as well. Those two definitely cooked something up on that hidden too. So they still have a hidden weapon, which is gimmicks, and not many teams from even the higher seeded placements can show that type of a skill set against others, but those can Even though they have some other weaknesses like tapping mostly, seed 39 on Nomad 2 is definitely something you don't want to see as a UK. But yeah, Aquatic.
Yeah, I mean, losing out on all of those hard hitters definitely took a toll on this team, but nonetheless, with Fopdu and Bigfoot here, you definitely see the gimmicks being covered very well. Given that it is their standout score, seed 19 on that HD2. I do see a lot of struggle on the mechanical picks though. Nomad key point being Nomad 2, DT2, DT3. Like a lower, like the higher 30s ish seeding, and we'll see how they fare on the lower SR in terms of those mechanics. But yeah, that is certainly not looking great for them.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add, Shigami?
No, sorry, Aquatic. With that, let's move on to our next country, and it's gonna be C27, Spain. Now, this is a pretty interesting roster. Once again, I think it's another one of those cases similar to Colombia that it's a very balanced roster. As Philoxen, I think you mentioned, right? There isn't any standout players apart from maybe an argument can be made. I honestly just want to say this name, Cannabis Power. What a name!
No.
Spain is sort of performing similarly to how they did last year. No real changes in terms of performance in qualifiers. It will be interesting to see if they are able to perhaps perform better on a lower SR pool where their players won't be as skill capped. But at the end of the day, it will just be left into the hands of the players of Team Spain this year. Philoxen, what about you?
Yeah, man. When looking through stats, I just couldn't find anyone in top 100 by individual stats, but all of the players, like most of them, are like between like 100 and 200 individual stats rank range. Wait, not rank range, but just range. But anyway, Cannabis is definitely the stronger player of Team Spain when it comes to at least some carry potential, followed by Carla. And everyone else are pretty much good supports. Like we can see that those have definitely been changing their lineups all the time when playing their quals. So really rich in terms of versatility, and that's really nice, I think. But Aquatic, what do you think?
Yeah, nothing really to add here. I don't really see any particular weaknesses for this team. I think overall this team is a pretty consistent performer. Everyone really got to play everything else. We didn't really see any like solo carries on this team. Just looking at based off of this sheet right now. And I will be excited to see how they perform on the lower SR, certainly.
Yeah, especially right, Aquatic, given how it's gonna be harder to pick into their weaknesses on the lower SR. So when their scores start to scale up with the lower SR, maybe they'll be able to put up a good fight in the lower bracket. Let's move on to our next team. The next team that we have, it's going to be C26. Let me just pull it up real quick. It's gonna be Team Hong Kong. Team Hong Kong lost a bunch of strong players last year. You know, with Kuranabi getting banned, Team Hong Kong has been sort of on the decline in terms of their 6WC roster. This year, unfortunately, they weren't even able to fill out a full roster. But for what it's worth, the 4 players that did pull their weight and did most of the qualifiers this year definitely cooked. I mean, 4 players: Hing, Sasuke, ILY, Zero, and Kitio. Sort of strongman the entirety of qualifiers, with the exception of Minato Aquafan, Aqua, playing DT2. The rest of them, carried most of qualifiers, and for what it's worth, they qualified. Qualifying with a 6-man roster is by no means an easy feat, so huge shoutouts to them for, matching their last year performance in seeding. Definitely the same cannot be said for a lot of countries that were hit hard with CSR. So yeah, huge shoutouts to them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this team definitely has one hyper carry that we should point out, which is Kitio, top 22 by individual stats. Is a really strong control player, as we are seeing from those Nomad 3, Nomad 4 scores. I believe he got in top 20 by individual stats in those 2 maps. And for other maps as well, FC DT1 was close to FC Nomad 1, so I believe the strategy for that team is gonna be that they will just be picking maps around Kitio's most comfortable skill set, which is control and aim in general. So gonna be really interested to see how this will work for them in the early rounds. But Aquatic, anything to add?
And yeah, I mean, you've certainly said it. Aim control is certainly the specialty for this team. Unfortunately, it does seem they have a weakness on precision and the finger control aspect of things, and raw speed, honestly. The general mechanics are on the lower side of seeding, and that is what dragged them down to this relatively lower seed compared to their performances on the control-y picks. So we'll see how they perform on those mechanics.
And that's right, Aquatic. Moving forward, we have C25, and it's gonna be Norway losing out on Super Jaeger with the graduation of Super Jaeger at long last from their roster. Has been this, Oh, could we get a page swap? Norway with the loss of Super Jaeger and unfortunately has been struggling to find their roster fills. More in particular, Zuka Kromny was not present for the qualifiers, unfortunately. But of course, when you look at Team Norway, there are two players that you mostly look at, and that is Mr. Wong and Andy26. As you can see, doing most of the hard lifting during the qualifier stage, with Mr. Wong playing all of the qualifiers maps in their lobby, with the rest of the players, trying here and there to fill in their weaknesses. I think the struggle for Team Norway, or the main challenge or puzzle to solve for Team Norway this year, is going to be filling in the Mr. Wong and Andy26's weaknesses, more in particular the third and fourth player syndrome. With a country so reliant on carries such as Norway, it is going to be, I do foresee this being relatively hard, especially when you get into the harder pools, but perhaps in the lower SR pools, their supporting cast might have a pretty more easier time, to say the very least. And for what it's worth, they did beat their last year's seating by 4 seats, so respects to that.
Yep, for sure. Last year they had Super, this time not really, but still managed to outseed themselves, which is very impressive. Norway is gonna be your last low seed from the countries that have qualified. Seed 25, Mr. Wong as a captain did really strong, top 88 by individual stats, and the top 36. Once again, the embodiment of stability, of stable aim, of just consistency is all here. So I hope they will have enough time to train their players to actually to FC a couple of maps in the earlier stages. So good luck to them. And Aquatic, if you have anything to add, then please do.
Yeah, nothing really to add here. Let's just move on to seed 24.
Yep, that's right, Aquatic, and let's do right about that. Netherlands, you already saw it before. Team Netherlands, this is the first year I believe that Death by Darwin isn't present on the Dutch roster, so 07s to them. On the flip side, we really in the prediction stream, I think we were very concerned about Netherlands not having any standout players to tap into. And for what it's worth, this is another case of a very balanced roster, which I think will do very well in the low SR. We've already said what needs to be said in previous rosters such as Colombia and Spain, so I don't think there's anything much for me to add.
Yeah, no, I agree, not much, except for the fact Danik got top 50 by individual stats, but no one higher than him, so once again, he is the stronger player in the team, and he will get supported by his fellow crewmates, but with that, I think we can just jump straight into C23.
Yep, and that we shall. C23 is going to be Belarus. Now, Belarus, a very interesting country. At first glance, it's not a country that you would think would perform relatively well in the 6-digit World Cup series, just by nature of, their performances in the higher ranked World Cups. But, in 6-digit, Belarus is actually a relatively strong force. I believe 4th place in 6EC, if I'm not wrong, Philoxen. And,
Yes,
this time, despite losing a lot of their firepower in players such as Darlong and Philoxen, remind me, what was the other carry player?
Foreign. It was Foreign.
Yeah, that's right, Foreign. Despite losing their 2 hard hitters, they were still able to outdo their last year's seeding by 4 seeds. So definitely a respectable performance. Across the board, Amor seems to be the team's anchor. with Amamiya Mitorio having some stand-up performances here and there alongside Iger. That's it. I think this team definitely has a strong suit in Hard Rock, evidently so, as well as the free mods, and I'm very excited to see how this team utilizes these strengths going into the bracket stage.
Yeah, right. I'm very happy that Belarus managed to at least save one of their glorious 6EC players, which is Emmer, and yeah, he did really well with that Hard Rock carry, and I believe this is gonna be the strength of the team. And if you ask me, Hard Rock is something like really rare, especially for those lower seeded teams. So I think they might have a solid chance of taking at least 1 or 2 points against some higher seeded ones. But yeah, I believe this is gonna be it from me. Aquatic, what do you think?
I mean, nothing really to add here, so let's just move on to C22.
C22 this time is going to be ding 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 ding. Ludexia was right. It's gonna be France. Oh man, this is another sad occurrence for like it's quite pretty similar to what we saw from the UK and Finland. France this year has lost a lot of their hard hitters. The French roster from last year was known to be one of, if not the strongest free mod specialized rosters in the tournament. And this year they just weren't able to hold up that high bar. They do have some, notable players. I'm looking at Momonagi in particular, which interestingly enough didn't play any maps in qualifiers, as well as Hecate, which was only present for free mod 1. Definitely interesting if you ask me, and they do have some of their firepower remaining. Looking at Dylan, looking at Green Melon and Sosok still returning for their roster, as well as their new blood in Sunhax. As well as Cloudfuninator, pardon me for butchering that name. Overall, this roster definitely has a lot of new bloods that are, up and coming, as well as some old talent in Dylan and Green Melon, as I mentioned before. And I would just like to mention, Momonagi not playing qualifiers is definitely very interesting. Perhaps some de-seeding going on, and perhaps the seed doesn't tell the full story. Momonagi is Team France, Team France's strongest, gimmick specialist, and one of the stronger gimmick specialists from the last iteration of 6WC. So for them to not play any maps in qualifiers really puts into perspective France's weaker scores when it comes to HD2 and Free Mod 1.
Yep, it definitely without Momonagi is gonna be. Yeah, it was expected for them to kind of de-seed, but I'm just gonna say this is gonna be one of the scarier middle-seeded teams when it comes to round of 32 and round of 16. So, well, higher-seeded teams beware, because this is definitely the country to look out for. They are so experienced, and yeah, I believe this is gonna be a tricky one. And if there would be a matchup that we would stream, I would want to commentate it. But yeah, I think we can jump straight for All right. So yeah, let's go to C21.
Yeah, let's move on straight to C21, and this time it is going to be Chile. Wow, this definitely was a surprise to me when I was looking through the stat sheet. Team Chile has, if you guys don't know, in 6WC 2023, the 6WC 2023, pardon me, was arguably their best year, where they were seed 13. And in 6WC 2024, they fell all the way down to seed 55. One of the bottom seeded countries, if I'm not wrong. This year they made a whole almost more than 30 seed improvement, and I think Philoxen, we gotta give credit where credit is due. We were wrong about Team Chile. They are here to prove a point. We thought Team Chile were going to keep up their streak of D and Q, but no, they proved us wrong. C21, what a performance! I mean, I'm looking at players like Tegato, Solhei, and players that we sort of overlooked in our prediction stream like Awunao and Kurt, as well as Sushi de Nami. Definitely a very, very interesting roster to look at, and there's a lot we don't know about this roster, which I think will be a boon to the higher seeded teams when it comes to scouting for Team Chile, especially when they get into the losers bracket, where teams start to be weaker and, matchups between the lower seeds tend to be closer.
I'm so excited to see Chile's Revengeance arc. Also, some of the players played festival events. I believe that also kind of helped them in getting tourney experience, considering those 8, they're not experienced mostly at all. So Yeah, I'm really happy we did some impact on that. Kind of trained Team Chile on that. So C21, really good job for you guys. But yeah, Aquatic, I think we can point out their weaknesses for now.
Yeah, I mean, their weaknesses, from what I see, is that no mod. Overall, dragging the entire seeding down with just considering looking at their HDs and HRs, and especially that free mod 1 seed 8, the first top 10 seed of any map I've seen so far, I think, from any team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we do see some nomads. We do see some struggling on that nomad. God, I can't speak English. So we'll see how they do on the much easier nomad pool that is in round of 32. But yeah, definitely be careful of this team.
Yeah, now that you mentioned Aquatic, this team seems to excel in the mods. Even they struggle in the no mods, and perhaps that is due to a lack of consistency in the no mods. I definitely think that this team's strength lies in their mods, and it's gonna be very interesting to see how they utilize it. But let's move on to C20, which is going to be Team Lithuania, baby.
Hey.
Last year, Team Lithuania was first ever 6WC roster, GNQ, seed 46. This year, they are here, and they are here to prove a point. C20 for a country is keeping in trend of the massive improvements that we've seen from countries. This is a over 25 seed improvement from Team Lithuania, and it definitely speaks. You know, you have players like Kodunelis, Bad Apple, and Lich, as well as Practice Dummy, being huge carries in Team Lithuania. And I just would like to mention, I think the rest would love to mention as well, that DT prowess definitely speaks volumes for this team. Team Lithuania, I think, will struggle when you scale up in terms of SR because of their lack of a fourth player. I definitely think that when the SR climbs up, their weaknesses, which I'm sure we'll be able to cover later on, will become more and more pronounced, and they will not be able to hold their own. Of course, you can play around that with picks and bans, with smart picking and banning in the bracket stage. But given how 3 of their players were not present for qualifiers, I worry for their versatility as a roster. Although I am pretty sure Lithuania, the player, is relatively strong in his own right. Can never be too sure given how the only real tourney experience I'm familiar with personally is Kodunelis and Bad Apple in our pre-tourney events.
It's Kodunelis and Lich, respectively, got seed 40 and seed 33 individually,
Wow.
which is just a crazy core synergy that those two have. Also with the support from Bad Apple, like it's a really strong trio from them. And well, they just need to hope, and we just need to hope that the fourth player that they have can just fill in for most of the other maps. So if they do have one of those players, then I believe that team will be even stronger than the actual seeding that they have. But yeah, wait, is this seed 3 on DT3? Wait,
Yes, indeed.
wait, oh my god. Okay, Aquatic. Okay, you can take it. You can talk about it.
But yeah, I mean, Philoxen certainly has mentioned it. With 3 players gone from this team, even though you see some lower seeds on those HDs being 25 and 32 respectively, and the free mods, we are missing 3 players from this roster here. Like, we could see them filling in for those gimmicky picks very, very well when the entire roster is here for the match. And like, being C20, the first round could make being C20 and being closer to the middle seeding of the entire tournament, we could see some very close matchups in round of 32, and I'm excited to see how this team performs.
Yeah, that is right, Aquatic. But at the end of the day, weaknesses and strengths are definitely very, very polarizing in Team Lithuania, so definitely an interesting team to look out for. Let's move on to our next roster, and it's going to be seed 19 with Team Japan, the first Asian roster that we've seen for a while. Let's jump straight into it. Hopefully we can get a quick swap. I already predicted, you know, Team Japan was going to be an interesting team to look out for, just given the nature of how little we know about Team Japan. This year we saw losses in, you know, UU 5130 as well as Noko BSF in Team Japan. So really, we are in the dark about this roster. But from what I know, these players have experience when it comes down to it, and it definitely shows here. Japan has a thriving 6-digit tournament space, and when you look at this team, it looks very, very good for them. A balanced roster with every single player shining in their unique skill sets. I'm looking at Mugen Q with those incredible scores on the DTs. I'm looking at Rutan with those hard rock scores. I'm looking at, you know, Yuki Aima, the all-rounder of the roster, hitting so many different avenues, as well as Shiga with the hidden carries alongside the Fremont 1 carries as well. This team really does it all, and all of their players have a chance to shine. Oh my goodness, I definitely think this is going to be an interesting roster to look out for, just by nature of how well-rounded they are as a team and how well they cover each other's bases.
Remember how last year Japan also got something around like seed 16 that we saw, and just looking at their final placement, top 7, top 8, that means they got and they made a lot of crazy upsets. And just looking at the potential of those players, I can already tell that if some upsets happen for them, then I will not be surprised. Just considering Mugen Q's carry potential, that tapping, that aim, I think we might see something like Noko BSF type of skill over here. But yeah, and as of course the main tapping, the main skill set is gonna be tapping for them. That Nomo 2, that DT3, that DT2 as well is gonna be the really good choice for them to pick against anybody, honestly. And also Fremont 1 kind of strong here on the gimmick side of the pool. But yeah, Aquatic, I believe you will be able to cover the strengths better.
Yeah, indeed. And you've mentioned it, their tapping roster is incredibly strong with the 1 mil plus on the DT2 and a very strong number 4 this time, from 3 right to 4 for DT3. I mean, this team is a scary team on No Mod 2, but don't count them all out on the mods at all, because do you remember that HD1 for qualifiers is a pretty interesting map for an HD1? Once we get to the later rounds with HD1 being more standard aim, awkward aim, perhaps we could see a much better performance on those. But we do see a control weakness, though. I do want to point that out. The Nomad 3 and HD1 has certainly showed it. The relatively lower seed dragging themselves down a little bit to seed 19 with just looking at the other scores, like seed 10 on HR2. Like, this team is performing on the other slots. But if you want to pick something, go for those Nomad 3s.
Team Japan, a team to look out for, and I think the next team is another one that the prediction stream staff held pretty highly. It's going to be Seed 18 India, in fact. This is a interesting roster. You know, you have a lot of standout players, I think. You have returning players, I believe, in Churf and Lomain, who, you know, this time are some of the carries of Team India. But I would like to shout out Noxium and Proto, both all-rounders from Team India, and has covered the entire host of the maps in qualifiers, minus the hidden 2 from Proto. Once again, I think this is the complete opposite, or no, not once again, this is the complete opposite of what we saw from Team Japan. Where Japan was a very well-rounded roster, Team India is a very polarizing roster. It's clear to see that where carries are concerned, this team really consists of Noxium, Proto, Churf, Lomain, with the supporting players to support them. So I think knocking out the weaknesses on a roster like this is definitely going to be very a lot easier than I think Team India would like.
Yeah, let's talk some about the individual stats, because oh boy, we have some really crazy performances from both Lomain and Proto. I expected Sheriff and Lomain to carry the most, but actually it was Proto who got the highest individual score out of the entire team. I've seen those Hard Rock 1 and Hard Rock 2 maps just making him probably just one of the best, I would say, in top 5 out of all the Hard Rock players in the tournament. He got top 9, wait, no, top 10 on Hard Rock 1 and top 10 on Hard Rock 2. And also Lomain, his hidden 2 score is just crazy. Because when looking at the stats, everything else that they had wasn't really like prominent. But then I just noticed that hidden 2 top 2 individual score. So yeah, that's literally almost the best hidden 2 score that you will see in 6WC. And because of that, this team just becomes so versatile. All the other players also like filled for so many other slots, and therefore you have some crazy scores on No Matsuri as well. Of course, the main strength is gonna be Hard Rocks, but yeah, Hidden 2 and No Matsuri, it just kind of makes them a wild card. So yeah, Aquatic, what do you think?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the HRs are definitely the standout scores for this team here, the Seed 9 and Seed 13. But if you're looking at weaknesses, mechanics is the way to go, certainly. We see some struggling on Nomad 2, DT2, DT3. All three of the mechanical picks in this pool are on the lower side in terms of seeding. But I do want to mention one thing though. We do see a very high seeding for HD2, and yet there's a very low seed in Fremont 1, because I think they're kind of betting on a solo carry for those gimmick picks. So if your team is strong on gimmicks, I mean, this could still be certainly like this could still be certainly a very good map to go for. Anything else you want to add, Gary?
Yeah, no, that's all from me. Let's move on to our next country, and now it's gonna be Seed 17, Team Argentina. Team Argentina this year sees the return of quite a few players. I mean, quite a few notable players. I'm looking at Jasky03 as well as Falwet. I'm not too sure if their Captain Axel is a returning player. You have to check me on that, but I think the player to look out for on this roster definitely is Falwet. Last year, alongside the now banned Avure, Falwet was one of the carries of the Argentina roster from 2023, amassing some incredible performances against Team Canada and Team Singapore, knocking both me and Aquatic down into the losers. That's it. I think Falwet going into this 6WC season is going to be one of the stronger players of the roster of players that we have this year. Taking a quick look at the team, or at the team composition. Pardon me. You see, Gabriel not being able to put any scores on the sheet, unfortunately. But you see that this team is pretty balanced. Of course, you have your carries in Forward and Gundel and Axel. But, you also have players like Dante Scout and Disva filling in for some maps here and there. And I think this is a good balance to have for a roster like Team Argentina. Being a mid-seed team, this is definitely what you want to see. No glaring weaknesses, although there are a solid amount of maps that fall below the, middling point of the seedings. But that's it. I think Team Argentina is definitely a country to look out for this year.
Yeah, I would be scared to face Argentina if I was playing 6WC, just because of how well their skill sets are covered. I would make the emphasis on tapping and A maps like Noma 2 top 4, Harrock 1 top 8, and DT1 top 8. So if you're asking where are those strengths coming from, I would say, well, it's just Falvet, because looking at the individual stats, this is the actually strong individual players territory now, because Falvet got top 8 by individual stats. He's the first one that we're gonna mention from there, and he FC'd so many maps that it just makes him not only strong on lower, but also when it will come to finals, if they get there, he will be definitely a threat for many countries. But Aquatic, if you want to add something, please do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main skill set that you gotta watch out for this team is the consistency side of things. I mean, HR1, DT1, the top 10 seeding, along with Nomad 2 as well. The consistency for this team is pretty damn strong. Everything else is overall very, very balanced as well. This is a team that you should watch out for, and I'm excited to see how they go against Seed 16 this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. This is, on paper, the closest matchup that we'll have in the round of 32. And it's gonna be Seed 16, Australia. Whoa, I am definitely very happy to see Team Australia come in. Last year, Team Australia was the underdog team. Despite being Seed 20, they managed to go all the way to semi-finals, if I'm not wrong. And this Australian roster definitely has some strengths. You're looking at players like Ichinami. I think Lunexia in particular was highlighting this player in our prediction stream. Ichinami, across a whole host of maps, in fact, all of the maps, apart from the Hard Rocks, was able to hit a very, very high individual placement. And I just like to call out, some players like Mo Shu Sheng. You're looking at Sorex Bay, who were able to cover, who were able to fill in that second and third player slot on a bunch of maps. On the flip side, you're looking at a lot of good experience in your boy Grubs, who has played all 6WCs from 6WC 1 to 3. Took a break in 6WC 2024, but is a returning player this year, as well as Clotho. A whole bountiful amount of tourney experience under her belt. I'm sure Clotho will do a phenomenal job when it comes to captaining her team. And overall, I'm excited to see how Team Australia does against Team Argentina. We will hopefully be able to cover this matchup later on in our pick'em stream. Hint, hint, hint. But that's it. Yeah, Philoxen, take it away, dude.
Yeah, man. The match of Australia versus Argentina is definitely gonna be super fun to watch, just because it's gonna be the battle of carries. It's gonna be Ichinami versus Velvet. Ichinami is the 7th by individual stats, and Velvet is number 10, as we mentioned. Ichinami definitely one of the best control players in the tournament, if not the best, honestly, because, well, they got top 2 on Hidden 1. And if we know what Hidden 1 is like, and it just, it takes a lot of finger control, aim control, and reading to FC that map, and he succeeded in that, even outscoring such crazy players like Philoxenia on the map. So yeah, this just makes that team super strong on control, and I think the picks are gonna be mostly those Nomad 3, Nomad 4 type maps. But Aquatic, what do you think?
And yeah, I mean, the strength have been mentioned, the weaknesses are here. It is going to be mechanics. This is one of those classic cases of a team is really strong on control and gimmicks, while they just kind of struggle on the overall mechanical portions of the map pool. Like the HR1 aim, the DTs for tapping. If you want to pick something to exploit their weakness, the mechanics are definitely the way to go.
Yeah, very well said, Aquatic. And yeah, I mean, this is the matchup, Australia versus Argentina, the matchup to look out for this week. Let's move on to our next country, and with that, we move into the upper half of the seeding. We're gonna get into our second country of this half with seed 15, Germany. Germany, throughout the 6WC series, has been a powerhouse through and through. Always having your consistent performances on the board, and despite last year, falling a bit short in Seed 23, this year they are back and they are out for blood. With the return of 6WC 1 podium finisher in Turley Manor, ex-6WC host as well. This roster is definitely this roster definitely packs a punch. You have Hopes as captain, a lot of tourney experience from Hope, so definitely Germany is definitely in good hands. You have players like Kateri, Lenexia, and Zertoaster, all from previous Germany 6WC rosters. I believe Kateri from a minor league team alongside Zertoaster, as well as a lot of these players having their experience cut out for them in the 6-digit European Cup. I like to shout out their new bloods, however, in Gliding Slime and Octagram. More in particular, Gliding Slime being, according to Lenexia, the strongest player on the German roster. So I mean, if that is the case, Germany has some power going into this year. Octagram as well, covering a solid chunk of the maps that, the carries in Gliding Slime or Lenexia weren't able to quite do so. But overall, this team has a very good blend of old blood experience and new blood passion that I think is very interesting to see in this German roster.
Well, right, Lunexia mentioned he predicted Gliding Slime to be the strongest, and he actually was right. Gliding Slime, your top 28 individual performer. And also, just look at the DT1 score from him. That's 1,200,000 score, literally meaning that if it wasn't SS, then he literally just spin the hell out of that spinner at the end of the map. So certified farmer in the tournament alert. And when speaking about the weaknesses and strengths, I just say Hard Rock is the weakness that they have, but everything else is just covered really well, especially those DTs and DT2 that I would just not expect Germany to play that well, so I'm really impressed.
And yeah, I mean,
My goat.
distracted, but yeah, the only notable weakness that I see on this team is the HR2 precision. The slightly lower seeding for the precision picks, but that is the only weakness I really see on this team. The mechanical portion of this team is quite strong. Same with gimmicks and control. It's just the precision, and that is really scary considering they are a mid seed. Cause like you're going into this and you just gotta outperform them on pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's right, Aquatic. Let's not dwell on Team Germany for too long. Let's move on to our next country. This is an interesting one. Ladies and gentlemen, your 6WC 2023 X winners. Seed 14 is gonna be Team Brazil. Team Brazil, there's a lot we don't know about this team. I think it's quite similar to the Japanese roster, where a lot of these players are just unknown. You have some known players in, Dot Sepa and Jotampa. Jotampa being the Trial by Fire pre-tourney event South America lobby winner. But across the board, you actually see a very strong showing from Team Brazil. It's similar, again, to Team Japan in that every single player has a place in this roster. Every single player, and because of that, they are able to cover a large variety of maps. They have a very adaptable roster. Of course, I find it very interesting that the absence of Braya in this qualifier's attempt is very interesting to me. Perhaps this doesn't tell the full story, because from my knowledge, Baraya is definitely one of their stronger players, and given how their captain isn't there, perhaps there's also some mental diff that gave them a lower seed than expected. Overall, I think Team Brazil is a scary team to face, not necessarily because of the scores that they put out during qualifiers. Look at Nomad 1, freaking Ukraine incident. Team Brazil is scary because there's a lot we just don't know about Team Brazil as a roster, and that's why picking around it is going to be all the more challenging.
Yeah, right. That Sepia was, I would say, the carry, at least when it came to quals. Got top 28, if I remember correctly. So yeah, really strong core player, but I think with Braya they would have gotten much better seeding. So kind of a front situation over here, and I think if not that Noma 2 as well, they would have gotten around like seed 10 or seed 9. I think that would have been very much doable, because Braya played in a couple of recent tournaments, for example MAP, where they got seed 10. It was like 70k open 70k tournament, not open rank, what am I saying? But still, Bry was one of the carries of that team, who faced some crazy derankers of previous era really like with grace and really had chances of beating them. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how they will do against some higher seeded teams in the future, and I think might upsets even will happen.
Yeah, I think this is very much a clear case of some de-seeding happening here. Braya, the strongest team, stronger member, sorry, not playing, leading to some lower scores on the Nomad 1s and HR2s. And HD2 as well. I do believe Braya can play HD quite well. So the weaknesses that we see here are not quite representative. and it's gonna be hard to pick against us. I don't really have an idea of what is best to go against.
Yeah,
So,
again,
let's
right?
see.
It looks like from what we're seeing in the qual scores, the Nomods or the Nomod 1 seems to be your best bet. But at the end of the day, you can never be too sure, right? I mean, Nomod 1 is a very accessible skill set, and I definitely think that in the especially in the low SR, Brazil will be able to get good enough scores on that. So you can never be too sure of this Brazilian roster. But let's move on to our next country. This is your 6-digit Asia Pacific Cup second place roster. Wait, is it second place? No, third place roster. It's gonna be seed 13, Team China. Team China suffered a lot of losses. I think they lost their captain in Aikmi, who went to the minor league this year. Their two of their best players in Aikmi and Falling Sprite were unfortunately absent from this Chinese roster. And despite the fact that, you know, this is a very solid placement, seed 13, it is quite a bit of a drop from their seed 6 in the 6WC 2024. That said, however, I definitely think this roster does pack quite a punch and will be able to do a solid job in the bracket stage. Again, a pretty balanced roster, and we're sort of getting into that zone in the seeding where you start to see countries with thought out rosters where players know what they need to do and players have a duty to fulfill. Rui 23, despite only playing one map, of course, being the captain, there is a lot of mental fatigue that comes with that, and perhaps that suggests why they weren't present for some of the qualifiers maps. Taking a quick look at, you know, the rest of their player scores, nothing much to point out apart from Creep being the standout player of this roster. Creep on the DTs as well, doing absolute God's works, as well as the Hard Rocks. Other than that, the rest of the players provide very solid supporting combos, supporting scores, and overall that managed to put them up to a very respectable seed 13.
Yeah, this team, if you ask me, is very versatile. Jagu, because like if you look at them, Jagu is a really good finger control and flow player, hence the hidden 1 score and all those DT3, DT1, Nomad 2 scores from him. Then they have Creep, a really good hard rock player, and then you have Shvaliev for for the general tech and precision like hard rock maps. So those three on themselves already make the team very just like experiment with variety when it comes to their matches. And all the others, they also have a purpose. They can fail, they can play different skill sets, and this is, I think, what makes this team super strong. Just if they have a really strong captain to coordinate all of the players. And I really hope Rule knows what he is doing, and I'm all in for that.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, the weaknesses looking at this roster would be that Nomad 3 and the HD1. So that once again tells us that I guess this team struggles a bit more on the control-y side of things. But nonetheless, these are still pretty good scores, and being near the top seeds, this is not a team you should look down upon at all.
But speaking of teams that I looked down upon, I was definitely not expecting this team to make it as far as it did. I'm probably the D1 hater of this team, in fact, but Modular Singapore, ladies and gentlemen, your seed 12 is gonna be Team Singapore. I don't even know what to say. I'm completely and utterly shocked. We outseeded Team Brazil. Like, what are we doing? Looking at this Singaporean roster at face value, there are a lot of unknown players. There are, you know, Lapless Darkness, Not Roboco, Jensen are a lot of players that, and as well as Unlimitless are a lot of players that are just completely unknown to the greater tournament community. Of course, your captain in King of Lim, being the anchor of the team as always, managing to put out a respectable course performance, but Unlimitless, being the new spawn of Team Singapore, has been able to put out a very strong qualifiers showing, you know, solid scores across the DTs, solid scores across the Nomods, and only falling short on the Hiddens where his teammates really took front stage. And meanwhile, you know, Lapless Darkness, despite only playing one map, was able to come full circle with that DT1 FC alongside Not Roboco with that Nomad 1 and solid scores on the DTs as well. The return of Coach Indera is definitely a welcome one as well for the Singaporean roster. Coach Indera, part of the 6WC 2024 roster as the gimmick specialist, now turned one of the carries of Team Singapore, as he was in 6WC 2022. Yes, that's right, I'm correct. Of course, the hidden 2 specialist in Coach Indera, managing to really drag up Team Singapore scores on the HD2. And I'd like to mention, just in particular in terms of aim mechanics, Singapore, the mechanics country, coming in with the number 2 scores from Nomad 1 and DT1. I love my country. I'm sorry for doubting you guys. I was not familiar with your game, and hey, I'm commentating for you guys now. But I guess anything else to add from you guys?
No, like years pass, Singapore is still an aim country. You have to see that. Also the fact that they're close to Brazil once again in terms of seedings, at least. So yeah, kind of symbolical here.
Exactly 4 seats away, by the way. Exactly 4 seats difference like last year.
Oh damn! Wait, that's funny. Okay. Then I guess there's nothing much to say.
Yeah. I mean,
I do want
according
to add
anything.
some
Go for it.
about
Oh, okay.
The skill set wise, I think this team's seeding is significantly pulled up by their outstanding performances on the Nomad 1s and DT 1s. The hidden and hard rocks, we see some struggling on those, along with the Nomad 2s and Nomad 4s. I mean, the weaknesses are evident here. It's the control, it's the HR.
Yeah,
once again.
Yeah, I think across the years, or at least ignoring 6WC 2024, right? Singapore has always been known as a mechanics-pilled country with a weakness in our control, and it's good to see that that control weakness is still ever present, as well as sort of a tapping weakness as well this year. So, I mean, King of Lim, you have your work and you have your work cut out for you, my man. Better pick smart. If you need another live scouting session with me, you know where to find me. But anyways, enough Singapore glazing aside. Let's move on to the team that we saw at the very beginning of the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, seed 11, Vietnam. This Vietnamese roster is, you know, you lost and gained quite a few players. In terms of your losses, you lost your 6WC veteran, 4-time 6WC veteran in Fire Rate 88. But on the other hand, you regain players like Rena 1 from the minor league of 6WC 2023, as well as you pull up a bunch of new blood such as, you know, Tien View, as well as Salt Ran Chio. And overall, this roster is definitely a promising one for Team Vietnam. Across the years, Team Vietnam is very consistently performing at the higher level of the 6WC qualifiers, despite not being able to pull their own in the bracket stage. What they have on paper is definitely something definitely a force to be reckoned with. Across the board, you know, you're looking at Tien VU and Festive Axolotl as their main carries, alongside Rena 1 here and there, filling in for some no mods and hiddens as well. But I think mainly the anchors are going to be very important for this Vietnamese roster. I like to mention in particular, this Vietnamese roster has a lot of specialists. You're looking at My Angel Chino when it comes to the hard rock, Rena 1 when it comes to the hidden, and Zix when it comes to the control. And at the end of the day, I definitely think that's where Vietnam's strengths are going to lie. And that's where teams should look to outplay Vietnam in the picks and bans.
You know, when we were having that prediction stream and you guys were all putting Vietnam around like top 8, top 16 and saying that, oh, they have Festive Axolotl, therefore they are like super strong. I was like, okay, I guess he is strong. So I put Vietnam at around like top 24, I think. Little did I know, Festive Axolotl would be like top 11 by individual stats, get in top 3 on Nomad 2, get in top 8 on Hidden 1, and extremely like boosting Vietnam's Z-Sum because of that, not only him, but the others as well. Top 2 on Nomad 2, top 5 on Hidden 2, and every other skill set, maybe except for Hard Rocks, is super well covered by all of the players from Team Vietnam. Festive Axolotl got some crazy good support, and I think this, just looking at the seeding, this is one of the most balanced and stable teams like throughout the years. So good luck to them, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the skill set weaknesses, we see the HR weakness popping out right off
My
the
Angel
bat.
solo carry.
It's really a My Angel Cheeto solo carry here. I mean, C26 and C21, they do certainly struggle a lot on that HR. But if they ban this out, their HD is quite incredible. Just looking at HD1 being a really, really difficult map, I would say one of the hardest maps in the pool from qualifiers, being able to do as well as they did on that HD1, it just shows how far they can scale on that HD skill set. Am I right?
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, like, all of the skill sets are pretty balanced besides that higher AR specifically, because the DT1 as well. But this is the team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we love our Southeast Asia represent, but with that, we're moving on to C10. Doubters be silenced. Aaron XZ is back. Ladies and gentlemen, C10 is gonna be Team Kazakhstan. We look at this roster, and the only player that you're looking at is Arongs, right? And I am very happy to say that I've been proven wrong. This Kazakhstanian roster is is way more balanced than I thought it would be. And it's similar to Argentina from 2024, where we thought Abure was the only carry player or the only decent player from that roster. No, it's clear to see that we underestimated the Kazakhstan roster in the prediction stream, as we completely sidetracked players like Legacy, players like So Milo, and and top 4 guy. Overall, Kazakhstan is definitely a lot more well-rounded than I gave them credit for in my prediction stream. And for that, I'm definitely looking forward to what Team Kazakhstan has to offer under the leadership of Arongs.
Yeah, dude, Arung's my goat, probably one of my favorite players in the tournament. The
biased.
most often, yeah, so biased, the most often participant of festival events, but not only him, as a top 15 individual, was the one to carry the team. He also received a crazy support from Legacy 14, a 200k ranked player who, yeah, got top 23 by individual performance. And yeah, I've seen a lot of maps as a 200k. Like, okay, what did they feed him? Like, what happened to this guy? Why is he FC Nomad 1, DT1? I understand those are like on the easier side on the pool, but man, Nomad 3 is definitely not something I would expect from a 200k player. Besides those two, I would though say that the others are not as strong. So the skill sets they revolve around those two, and they will be really depending on if like Arangs and Legacy are feeling good in match or not, because I think in lowest rounds it might be kind of a problem for them as well. But besides that, if they are feeling all right, I think they should be really stable and really scary against many of the teams.
And yeah, looking into their skill sets, a very, very balanced teams, but the only weaknesses I notice is the HR1 and Fremod 1, and those maps being, well, one of them being consistency could just be a slight underperformance, and Fremod 1, I mean, their mods are quite strong. This could be just once again another underperformance, and I think this is just an overall very well-rounded team. Not really any particular weaknesses or really high spikes besides maybe some like good pop-up performances. So do watch out. You just gotta outperform.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah.
then again, you mentioned, right, Aquatic. The hard rock weakness really seems to be seeping into their free mod performances, as that is also their dip in scores. Perhaps that is due to their lack of a hard rock feel for Team Kazakhstan, and I definitely worry for their hard rock going into the bracket stage. But I think these things can be cleverly picked around. So we'll have to see how it goes. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, your 4th place 6WC 2024 country. I think Aquatic wants to take the reins for this one, but it's going to be Seed 9 Team Canada.
Yep, here we are, guys. Hi, it's Canada. It is Seed 9. Unfortunately, we missed out just 1 seed away from top 8 this time around. I mean, the players here are, I think everybody's very familiar with the likes of Herald and Kdori. But I do want to mention some of our other players like Groggles and Femboy Nixie, who one of them is kind of just a spawn coming in this year. Groggles coming in being as very well-rounded in tryouts, and Femboy Nixie, the prime gimmick player of our of 6WC Canada this year. And don't forget our other players like Isaac and Magic Mirror, who kind of came out of the works out of nowhere and top performed our tryouts, as well as Toro, our last player of Team Canada. This is a team. These are my children, besides Harold, because fuck that guy.
No. Okay.
But yeah, nonetheless, very strong performances on HR1, C2. This is a performance that I was really proud of because I was in the VC and these guys popped the fuck off when I saw them, honestly. Wow. But yeah, take it away for skill sets.
Yeah, for skill sets, right. So I guess Aquatic did actually curse Herald, because in quals Herald kinda underperformed with the exception of Nomad 1, Nomad 2 and Hardrock 1. Kaidori was the one carrying and he got top 5 by individual stats. I've seen most of the maps in the pool, and therefore, as was already mentioned, I think the stronger side of the team and the strongest skill set that they have is Hard Rock and Precision. Top 2 Hard Rock 1, top 8 Hard Rock 2. The weaker part is that those DT maps, for some reason, top 15 on DT3, even though Herald and Kaidori are really good on those finger control mechanic type maps. But still, when it comes to everything else, I can't really point out anything like, yeah, because there's literally nothing outside of top 20 range for any of the mods.
Yeah, I want to tap on what you said, Philoxon, about the DTs. And I'm starting to realize that Canada really struggles to fill in that fourth player when it comes to all of the DTs, perhaps suggesting why their scores were that much lower. You're looking at an underperformance, I believe, from Harold on DT3, and an overperformance solo carry from Kaidori on the hardest map in the quals pool. So perhaps it's not the best measure of their true talent on DT. And I do think it will get easier as we get into the lower SRs. But as the SR scale, I am very excited. I'm very interested in seeing how well Harold manages to scale upwards. Harold being a very strong high SR player, profits over high SR, right? But overall, you know, that DT weakness is definitely very pronounced. And we're gonna have to see if it continues to plague this Canadian roster. Meanwhile, the other, you know, downwards performance in this roster is that Nomad 3, Nomad 4, and Hidden 1. On the control-y picks, it seems as though this team seems to fall a bit flat. Understandably so, given how, you know, it seems as though their carries in Kaidori and Harold are not the strongest when it comes to these maps. And I think now is a good point to mention that Team Canada doesn't really have the very, very strong polarizing specialist on their roster. They're really relying on the firepower that they have in Harold and Kaidori, the strongmen their way into getting these strong seedings. And meanwhile, you're seeing, you know, players that play 1 or 2 maps were not quite able to get, you know, strong carry performances, with the exception of maybe Groggles on Hidden 2 and some of the DTs. I do know that Femboy Nixie is a very strong easy and reading player, so I definitely think that once the SR scales, they might be able to pull off some low AR funky business akin to Shortkit from the previous Canadian roster. But I think with that is going to be it for the Canadian roster. Very happy to see the 4th place roster come back once again. And let's move on to our next team. This team definitely comes as a shocker, and definitely will come as a shocker to most of you guys, because this is probably one of the most tenured teams in the 6-digit World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, Seed 8 is going to be Team Poland. Going into 6WC, I think everybody thought, you know, this team has the experience. This team on paper is a very scary team. But I think I called it out in the prediction stream. This team falls short when it comes to, you know, their overall consistency when it at this SR. You're looking at players like Adik, Ignis, Kisabe, who are very, very solid at low SR but struggle into high SR. And it seems as though this quals pool has managed to skill cap some of these players. You're looking at a lot of these scores across the board, and with the exception of maybe of Kurtuba and Cuba, as well as Tianling, the rest of the players really seem to be getting, I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't say bad scores per se. These are sort of middling scores, and especially when you're seed 8, a higher seed, that's definitely not what the expectation is at this point. Really similar to how Harold and Kaidori Strongman, Team Canada, really this roster is carried right now by Kurtuba and Cuba. And so while I think this team will be very, very strong going into low SR, especially the round of 32, round of 16, no, I think this team is the strongest in low SR. When the SR begins to scale, I really worry for the longevity of Team Poland.
Yeah, man, Kurtuba and Cuba definitely getting at that top 30 individual range. But not really high though, so I would not even say that they have some like hyper carries. All of them are well rounded, and it's always the same for Poland. There is no hard carries, and everyone just is able to play everything, or either like they are a specialist. And yeah, it's gonna be a problem in later rounds, and especially well, for I would say the quarterfinals potential match. Wait, no, not even quarterfinals, but I would say round of 16, because if they get to round of 16 and Canada wins their first match, they're gonna play against each other. And this is gonna be a very interesting matchup, because those two teams are literally like the opposites of each other. Canada having two hard carries, and those having like the most stable roster without like any like individually hard carry players. So really interested about that one. But yeah. We'll see how it goes for them.
And yeah, looking at the skill set wise, this team is quite balanced in terms of everything. I mean, the lowest seed we see is the DT2, but clearly they can mechanics just looking at the number 3 score on Nomad 2. But overall, this is a team that you just gotta outperform on pretty much every single skill set if you want to convincingly win against them. But yeah,
this team's skill set is like a straight line with a little bump, that goes upwards. Team Poland is a very difficult team. If you're like picking it's a very difficult team to outplay. To beat this team, you need to outskill them. And that's just by nature of how well-rounded their roster is on a bunch of skill sets. However, when it comes to the high SR, that line is gonna get lower and lower, unless, you know, I mean, prove me wrong. Honestly, prove me wrong. This Team Poland is definitely a fan favorite, given how you have a lot of returning players from the podium finishers of 6WC 2023. So me personally, I'm excited to see how Team Poland does. I'm just a bit worried as to how well they perform. But our next country that we have on our list is going to be Seed 7, Philoxen. It is your homeland. Would you like to take the reins?
Alright. It's very funny that Ukraine and Poland are once again close to each other, because those two are like the rivals for like, I don't know, like 3 years already. They played against each other in like all 6WC 2023, 2024, and all the 6 ECs. And they are the closest in skill as well. And yeah, as I mentioned, that's why it's really funny. But I'm gonna be even more worried for Team Ukraine rather than Team Poland. Not because I'm biased, but just because, well, Philoxenia is a hyper carry for the team. Because this man got seed 4 by individual stats. I've seen so many maps. Top 3 on Hidden 1, top 3 on Nomad 4, top 4 on Hard Rock 1, top 2 on DT3, and all of his scores are in top 20. And the problem is that, right? Next player, like being the closest one to him in terms of like seeding, is Serge at like top 51 individual, I think. Ooh. So this team really depends on Philoxenia, because this guy FC'd everything except for 2 maps, if I'm seeing it right. So really, like every single pick, I believe is gonna be revolving around him. Of course, as you would expect from Ukraine, I think yeah, it's kind of a tradition that Ukraine is always strong on that mechanical part of the skill sets. Ukraine has always been strong when it comes to tapping. Therefore, you have top 3 on DT2 and top 2 on DT3. Well, it sounds kind of funny, like swapped, but anyway. Yeah, this is the strength of Ukraine that we have already seen throughout all the years in 6EC and 6WC previously. So yeah, this is the strength of Ukraine, that they will be able, I believe, to beat many teams that are even higher seeded than them when it comes to their strongest skill set. So really excited to see about it, and I believe now we can also cover the weaknesses and the strengths of the team. Aquatic?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at seeding now, the gimmick weakness stands out right away. Seed 16 on HD2, certainly not a bad seeding at all, but
where's Philoxen?
where is
don't
Philoxen, honestly? But yeah, the 100k fourth player score certainly did hurt their overall placement on that map, and I think they will definitely struggle to find a fourth player for the gimmick picks later on in the tournament, and that is certainly something that other teams can abuse. Other than
totally.
that, I mean, Nomad 1 is a bit of a weakness, but
Nomad 1 is
No,
always
it's okay. It's classic. It's the classic.
you know.
It's alright.
At this point. But yeah, okay, aside from all the skill set weaknesses, I'm gonna be completely honest. This team plays like a freaking 5v5 MOBA game team. Like with Philoxenia as the jungler, all of the players around him are supporting actors trying to funnel it to Philoxen. And I think that is Ukraine's hubris. The reason why Ukraine will fall short in 6WC is because they get fourth player syndrome. And that is purely off the back of Philoxenia being the end-all be-all hard carry of Team Ukraine. If Philoxenia has a bad day, Team Ukraine begins to struggle. Despite the fact that, Surge, Wannabe, Ritsu, Seising, and the last guy do cover some bases at the end of the day, when the SR scales, when that barrier of entry becomes raised extremely high, that's where that weakness is going to get pronounced. And if Team Ukraine wants to play around it, they need to use strategy, and well, we have to see how Ritsu plays around it. But let's move on to our next country. Now, this one is definitely a shocker, to say the very least, and it's a perfect representation of how the prediction stream panelists have no idea what we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Seed 6, Mexico.
No
What
way.
the hell?
No way.
So, when I saw Team Mexico getting Seed 6 with 2 players absent from their calls, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, Heidi Essay and Jish, Heidi Essay, Jish, and Resplet completely obliterated my expectations during qualifiers, especially Heidi Essay and Jish. Both of these players across all maps, incredibly solid scores. And mind you, they are missing 2 players from this roster. I saw this roster, I was like, okay, well, they're probably just playing with a 7-man roster. This roster does not give 2 shits about the fact that they have a narrow roster pool. This, and mind you, Mexico throughout 6WC has been a second half of the seeding bracket, constantly making placements, final placements in group stage. This year, they're here and they're here for blood. Seed 6. Wow.
Dude, that is potentially the strongest aim team in the entire tournament. Top 1 DT1, top 3 Nomad 1. And unlike Ukraine, this team actually has more carries than, like, they have 3 hyper carries. Raspiet is top 8, Heidi Essay is top 12, Jish is top 16. I couldn't find like a really strong 4th player for them, but at this point, who the hell cares? They have 3 players in top 20 by individuals, and they all perma lobby it. I think this is more than enough.
4.3 mil.
Man, I think this is more than enough. Even if they don't have 4th player, those 3 can just beat like, okay, objectively, like more than half of the players, and maybe even rival even some of the higher seeds that we will jump straight into pretty soon.
And yeah, looking at skill set wise, HR1 and 2, the noticeable weakness for this team. I mean, it is you look at this and you're like, okay, there's there's a weakness here. But then you look at the amount of people that played it, and there's 2 people that's just missing. Like, what if they can play this? You know, how am I supposed to make a prediction on the on the weaknesses of this team when half their other fill players are just not here? So honestly, you just gotta be real careful about this team. Do not let your guard down on any of the maps. Even if it shows that they didn't do so well on them on calls.
We don't know. We just don't know.
We just don't know.
I think this is like perhaps this is like a fallacy, but maybe we're seeing a repeat of Brazil, like where a lack of information is what this team is playing at. I don't know if that's what Team Mexico is going for, or if their 2 field players just can't outperform their carries, because their carries really are just that strong. But at the end of the day, there's a lot we don't know when it comes to even the carry players of Team Mexico here that makes it all the more difficult for countries to scout against it. There's another country that I want to talk about with this exact same scenario as well. But ladies and gentlemen, let's move away from Team Mexico. Let's move into our big top 5. This year is unique in terms of 6WC, where there are, 1 to 2 to 3 countries that can really contest. So at the end of the day, these top 5 teams, although are very strong, have an uphill battle going into the absolute peak of 6WC. Team Mexico is one of such teams that we perhaps might see fall off as their carries start to grow weaker as the SR scales. But as we move forward into our other rosters, we see more well-rounded rosters, we see more full and versatile rosters. And let's kickstart our big top 5 with our previous 6WC 2024 Seed 2, this time as Seed 5. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the one, the only Team Russia. Team Russia throughout the 6-digit series has been known for being a very consistent high performer in qualifiers, right? And this year is no exception. Seed 5, despite being 3 seeds lower than their previous seed, is very, very solid. You have players like Satori Depon and Absolute Dark being 2 of the strongest players in the 6-digit scene right now, 2 of the Apex Theater participants as well. In fact, I'd honestly say that their performance in this qualifiers, and especially for Satori Depon, seem to be kind of underperformances from them. In fact, I would like to shout out Nelity for that very, very solid DT performances across the board. And you look at their performances from their field players, and they have the players who specialize. They have their specialists to cover their bases. Imisaki with the DT2s, Sosadov with the Nomad 4s, Nomad 1s, the control-y picks here and there. And when it comes to it, everybody on this player seems to have a purpose, in addition to the carry players in Satori Depon and Absolute Dark. Take it away, Flopson.
Right, when I first saw the team and saw the stats, it kind of reminded me of the same situation as Poland had, but with the exception that that team actually has, overall stronger players, I would say. You have Absolute Dark at top 9, then you have Nelty at top 17 by individual performances, and everyone else not so far behind, so they all of them can shine bright, I believe. They kind of underperformed here and there. For example, that Nomad 1 and DT1 performances are not so good comparing to all the others. But Hidden 1 score, which is top 3, and just knowing the map, you know how much dedication it takes to actually set such a crazy score like that. You know that they all just know what they are doing, and I believe even though Satori Depon and Artisan and all the others were not as high in stats for qualifiers, I believe they still have their chances to prove us why they are so notorious for their performance later on. But with that, I think we can move on to Seed 4 already. And
ladies and gentlemen, There is only
I wonder.
one way that I can use to describe this next country that we'll see, and in cruel fashion, it is the exact same seed as Team Singapore last year. This country right here has potential to be the Singapore of 6WC 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are paying attention, you will know that there is one country that nobody expects to be this high. And ladies and gentlemen, that country is none other than Seed 4 Team Taiwan. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Your 6 APC. 4th place, if I'm not mistaken, or 6th place? Wait, no. Or wait. I'm forgetting it. But ladies and gentlemen, Team Taiwan is your Seed 4. This is just absolutely shocking to me. This is, I think, the level of shock that I had reading this is probably equivalent to the level of shock people had seeing Singapore as Seed 4 last year. This roster, I thought, was going to be way weaker with losses in Magician, with losses in 969. But no, I am completely wrong. This roster has a very, very balanced pool across the board. You're looking at carries from Murachi. You're looking at Kuri with the No Mod 3 carry. You're looking at Azaria and What the Hell Bro with the No Mod 2s. And on the Hard Rocks, you got Murachi once again with and What the Hell Bro on the Hard Rocks. On the Mechanic Aims, it's the duo once again. And on the free mods, holy crap, Azaria, What the Hell Bro, Richelieu and Murachi. Not really Richelieu, Runic Fountain with the incredible scores across the board. This Taiwanese roster is the strongest Taiwanese roster that we've seen in a while, and this is just absolutely flabbergasted. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted seeing this Taiwanese roster, and I can't lie, I'm a big fan.
No, Gamil, I still don't understand how this happened, because by stats there is only one player in top 20, which is Murarachi, being at the 18th placement. And then everyone else is like around top 30, top 50, and just lower. So I would explain it as that they are like kind of as consistent as Poland, but I think I think they just have like more specialists. And none of the players that have played Qual's lobby is just skill capped at this point. I think the skill cap that they have is pretty much high. Taiwan like has always been that wild card that I have always been underestimating, and this is, I believe, the time that I will have to apologize for them. So yeah, Seed 4, definitely something that I would not expect. I believe none would. So this is gonna be really fun to see them play against Russia in the bracket if everything goes right for both of those.
Yeah, indeed, and you said it. Looking at the skill sets, I mean, when you're this high up in terms of seeding, there really isn't any, like, the teams are just so well-rounded. There isn't any particular weaknesses. But looking at this, we do see a low seed for that DT2. But honestly, it could just be an underperformance. Their DT3 scores are absolutely insane, and their Nomad 2 nonetheless is also crazy. So, like, yeah, it's just a very well-rounded team.
I think, according the big question to ask, right, is this seeding a fluke from Taiwan? I think Taiwan's series in this 6-digit World Cup is going to be defined by proving themselves to the world that they deserve this seeding, and it's going to be up to how well they are able to, sort around their picks, how well they're able to tackle their opponents, how well they're able to strategize and make use of their strengths. I know they have players like Richelieu with a easy specialty, they have players like Azaria who's very strong on the tapping, and it's going to come down to how well they can adapt to different situations. We already saw Taiwan blow our minds in 6 APC, and ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to say that I think this year is Taiwan's year. But let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into our big top 3, and I think all of us probably know what this top 3 is gonna be. We all predicted it. It is no surprise to anybody at home. But the only question is, who between Philippines, Indonesia, and the United States will be running away in terms of seeding? Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please as we walk into our top 3 seeds. It is going to be seed 3, the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the big USA. Time and time again, we doubt the USA, and time again, they continue to prove us wrong. This US roster is similar to last year's roster, one that's very easy to overlook. At face value, you see players like, Light, a minor league player. It's very easy to look at a minor league player and go, oh, well, he probably only had his performances because of minor league. And then you have players like Misdraw, Redacted, Creep Crafting, and IDK Kiwi, who are just basically unknown to the tourney scene at this point. Redacted playing some tournaments here and there, Creep Crafting as well. But, if you are an outsider to the tournament scene, you look at them, and you don't really see a lot of their performances in tournaments, in part due to the lack of tournaments in the 6-digit scene right now. And of course, you have players like Callan Jack, who in the festival events are very, very strong. You have returning players in Cuckoo, previous 5-digit, D-ranked all the way back into 6-digit, and has now become one of the all-rounders of the US. And of course, we can't talk about the US roster without absolutely glazing the shit out of Delete Lixon. Delete, it took him 3 years, Core 6-2 winner, but he's finally back and he's here to wreak absolute havoc. Ladies and gentlemen, this Team USA roster is a force to be reckoned with, and no one does doubt this roster when it comes to, bringing the absolute storm to you guys. And it's important to note, guys, if you look at Callan Jack's score, he was absent for this course lobby. United States, this is not the US in its pure, prime form. And there is definitely room for improvement, and there is definitely things that the US are keeping in secret. So, I mean, watch out.
Yeah, dude. I just saw Will Smash asking in chat, why are we de-seeding? And yeah, Callan Jack is the reason for that. Without him, it definitely looks like US has some issues with those tapping maps like Noma 2 top 14 and DT3 top 11, which is not really good if you are seed 3, showing your weaknesses like that. But once again, I believe if Callan Jack was there, everything would have been different, because Callan Jack is a crazy all-rounder that could fill for any of the maps outside of top 10 that they got seeds for. And with that, they could have even gotten, I believe, seed 2, if not seed 1. Because, well, the difference between seed 3 and seed 2 is pretty close. But I cannot spoil anything, and well, we will see seed 2 later. But with that, scores to point out: Nomad 1 top 1, Nomad 4 top 2, and Hardlock 2 top 3. Versatile team once again, as mentioned, the weakness for raw tapping, and yeah, hopefully they will be able to fix that issue later on.
And once again, skill set wise, C3, the rounded team of all times. Only a tiny bit of weakness on the tapping and a little bit on the DTs, but honestly could just be flukes and underperformances. And with Callan Jack gone, this is a team. This call's performance could honestly just be a de-seeding attempt, and like, if that was the case and you still see 3, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think the US is one of the contenders to topple the giants, the non-discrete giants of 6WC. And for the first time, I don't think the USA are the villains of the story. So, for what it's worth, I'm excited to see how the United States how well the United States do this year. At the end of the day, I definitely think that there are some avenues for, exploitation. You're looking at, those hidden 2 scores. You're looking at those DT scores. Here and there might be some mechanics diffs. You're also looking at the Nomad 2 weakness as well. I definitely see a possibility of a mechanics weakness in the States. But then again, anything can happen with Team United States, and there is so much we don't know with the absence of Callan Jack. But ladies and gentlemen, we move into the big 2, and with the reveal of our second seed comes the subsequent reveal of the first seed. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare our 6WC seed 1 to be Team... Oh my goodness, it is so fucking obvious. Team Philippines! Oh my goodness, just take it away. And of course, subsequently, Team Indonesia will be your seed 2 for the 6-digit World Cup. Philoxen, take it away from me.
Alright, man. So we couldn't have talked about Indonesia without blazing one particular person, because they totally deserve being glazed, and this is gonna be Zerilia, the man who got top 1 by individual stats overall in 6WC, our strongest 6-digit of 2025, getting top 1 individual scores on half of the maps in the pool, top 1 on Nomad 1, Nomad 4, Hidden 2, Hardlook 2, and the entire DT pool, DT1, DT2, DT3, he got the first places out of everybody in the tournament. This is Zerilia, and he himself almost managed to carry his team to get in Seed 1, with the crazy support from Varial, of course. Varial as well, a really new prominent 6-digit, participated in many festival events from us and beat so many crazy D-rankers like Satori Depon, so those two are super strong. This is why they got top 1 on Nomad 3, top 1 on Hardlook 2, and just generally almost every of their score is within top 10 seeds on any map, except for Nomad 1 and DT1. Well, seems like a funny trend over here. Yeah, seems like same thing with USA, but slightly better with other seeds. Also, all that supported with the Legend of the Past Emergading. Yeah, those three definitely could sum it up.
And Syntax Era. Don't forget Syntax Era. 6WC1, I believe, all the way back.
Ooh, okay. I wasn't familiar with that, but that as well, I guess.
Although Philoxen, we are talking about these insane performances from Team Indonesia, but part of me is a bit worried. Why am I worried? Because Zerilia and Varial are like by far the strongest players on this roster, so I'm extremely worried that this becomes their crutch. Similar to how Philoxenia is the sole carry of Team Ukraine, I worry that Team Indonesia might become over-reliant on Varial and Zerilia for the carries. At low SR, this might not be as big of an issue, but high SR, when you're going against teams like the United States and later we'll see Philippines, where, you know, these teams are a lot more well-rounded overall, a lot more balanced overall, it becomes a sort of tit-for-tat situation where it's either Zerilia outscales everyone on the opposing team, or the opposing team manages to fill in more players on their roster, and that allows them to, with the power of friendship or whatnot, overcome the overall weakness of Team Indonesia when it comes to filling in a roster. So at the end of the day, that's definitely why I worry for this Indonesian roster. I still do think that this is a very scary roster to go up against, definitely, just by nature of Zerilia being on the team. But at the end of the day, I think this Indonesian roster, like the US roster, is definitely has weaknesses, and in the past, it has been made clear that Indonesia's greatest weakness is themselves. We saw them seed 9 last year and fall in group stage. We saw them do something last year and then end up in group stage as well. So Indonesia needs to keep their mental together. They need to stay united, and they need to lock the fuck in so that they don't fall short earlier on. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the very end. At long last, who even is surprised that our Seed 1 team, ladies and gentlemen, is the one, the only, for the first time, Team Philippines.
Oh, okay. This time, we predicted for Seed 1, and they got Seed 1. Not like something in 6WC 2023. So the curse is not happening. They actually got Seed 1. Huge congratulations. It's Team Philippines. Looking at the seedings, literally half of the maps is number 1 that they got.
No, more than half, bro. What the fuck?
Yeah, man. And the lowest seeding that they have is on Nomad 1. And even then, it's just seed 4 on Nomad 1. Everything else is higher. It's either top 3, top 2, or top 1. What are we doing, man? 3 of the top 6 players by individual stats are Filipinos. Xavi is seed... Right. Oh no, 6 is seed 2. Xavi is seed 3. And Edex Mendrick is seed 6. Those three definitely cooked something up. All the other players that they have on the team are not so far behind as well. You have Camo. Camo is a super strong player as well. He didn't get the top 6, but he got top 30 individual performance. All the others are also kind of close to him. That team synergy, I know for a fact they have a really strong community of people. They have the tournament spirit after 2 years of losses to many of the stronger countries. They finally reunited and got one of the strongest teams that I would be scared to play at any part of my life, even when me and any other of the good D-rankers were like really good. Because this is something that I believe none of the previous 6WC winners would be able to actually like beat. So yeah,
Yep.
that's my opinion on that.
A way that you can see this roster is that this would be a seed 5 or seed 4 roster if we were using the power level from 6WC 2024, which was a significantly higher power level. You have returning players in Ziggs, and you have players like Zavi, who is obviously on the level of Ziggs, and as well as you have the experience in Hushin, Yura, Idex, June, and Camo. Like, the fact that you know so many players on the roster speaks volumes to how incredibly strong and how incredibly dominant this team will be. Despite the fact that Hushin didn't play any maps in quals, don't let that fool you. Hushin is here for the captaining. He's here for the mental. And for what it's worth, I think Team Philippines will make the difference this year. In previous years, we've seen them provide very promising rosters, but fall flat. Group stage in 6WC 2023, 13th to 16th in 6WC 2024. This year, things will be different because I look at this roster and there's only one word to describe it, and that word is fear. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching this seed review. We hope that you guys are as excited to watch the bracket stage of the 6-digit World Cup as I am to stream it, to commentate it, and whatnot. Huge shout outs to all the teams that played quals. We are very, very grateful. I believe we only had 2 teams that didn't manage to play quals. RIP South Korea and whatnot. We're very, very sorry for the seed review delay. I personally also didn't want to do it on a Tuesday, but things happen at national. There are things that had just happened that are just out of our control, and we hope that you guys can understand. You guys can understand where we're coming from. To reiterate, ladies and gentlemen, you can find your opponents on the challenge that will be hopefully released soon. I'll be also dropping an announcement either today or tomorrow, just basically informing you guys about rescheduling matters or whatnot. So captains, do look out for that. Remember to schedule your matches early so that we won't have any issues moving forward. The round 32 pool has been released since yesterday, so once again, I'm gonna pass it forward to Mirage. If you have any feedback, do come ahead, the map pool feedback, and let us know. We are more than willing to have you guys talk. We are more excited about you guys talking about our work than, you know, a positive or negative reaction from you guys. So yeah. Once again, to remind everyone, top 32 teams get to progress into the bracket stage, while the rest of the teams get to go into minor league. If you guys have any queries about minor league, do direct it to Wheels West. I believe he's in chat right there. He'll get you set up with all the links and whatnot. So all the best to all the teams in minor league, especially you, Team Israel and Team Malaysia, my Pookies. But any last words from the commentary booth before we close it off?
Yeah, hope you guys liked the stream and you were kind of surprised like me about the seedings. That means we kind of trolled with the predictions, but who would have thought we would have like such countries for the prediction stream in the big top 8. So yeah, looks like this 6WC is gonna bring us many surprises, and I'm into that.
Yeah, Korik, what about you?
I mean, I am looking forward to who gets second. I'm kidding, but like
Whoa.
but I am very excited to see how mostly the top 5 teams perform against Philippines. Honestly, I think everyone else here is probably as excited as me, because this is a team that is as dominant, if not more so, than last year's Brazil, and.
Yep.
I mean, that was one hell of a titan to overcome. I think Gambili can speak from his own experiences. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, according, I think this iteration of the 6-digit World Cup can be characterized by two things: the post CSR meta game providing a lot of uncertainties, a lot of unknown players, and a lot of unknown skill sets that these teams will be bringing to the table, therefore leading to a lot of surprises. And number two, going up against Team Philippines. Despite the fact that ladies and gentlemen, despite the fact that Team Philippines looks so dominant here, for all the players in chat, for all the higher seed players, or even for the lower seed players in chat, I like to remind you guys that last year, the same expectation was had for Brazil. And my country, Singapore, from seed 4, managed to take Brazil all the way to a bracket reset 7-5, and then unfortunately lose at 5-7. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that kings can be slayed, gods can be taken down. It's just a matter of how badly you want it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Gammy Crayola. Joining me in the VC, of course, the lovely Philoxen and Aquatic. Huge shoutouts to Frawan for being our lovely streamer for this. It has been a long, arduous 2 hours, and I'm hoping that you guys enjoy watching this seed review as much as we enjoyed casting it. Do support us on Ko-Fi if you want to see the work that we do. Do follow us on all of our socials if you want to not miss another 6WC stream. Grab a stream ping in the 6WC server. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the 6-digit World Cup commentary team. This has been another Project Hexagon project for you guys. And this is Gammy Crayola signing out. Goodbye!
Bye bye.
Bye bye.